Can you hear now? Test, test. Do you hear Stover?
Um, we all hear you just fine.
I think it's coming through.
Okay. Sorry, everybody. 1 second. Looks like we're having a microphone issue. All right. So where were we? Yes, last question. How long did it take to create the project? About a year, and we started last summer at the tail
I think
end.
wasn't it 2 years?
If you talk about the generation of the project ideas, it has been a long time in the making, hasn't it, Bradley?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, it was an interesting conversation because I think, Bradley, we started chatting about it, right? Like, what was that in the beginning?
If we want to be really technical, our first initial conversation followed by that first rehearsal that I came to watch the symphony in action, that was almost 2 years ago. Because it was the rehearsal for the February performance.
Concertos, yeah.
Yeah, and so it's October right now, so it's been almost 2 years.
Oh, what a long time. It's finally here. And then, Chris, we came to you about it, and you have a lot of experience in composition. So maybe you could tell us, for this piece, what was the hardest instrument to write for?
I think the hardest instrument to write for in general, and I think a lot of people are surprised by this, but it's the harp. The harp is a weirdly complex thing. It looks like you just run your fingers up and down strings, but what most people don't see are 7 pedals hidden under the instrument, and knowing how to work them is extremely particular, and it takes a lifetime to master. So people think it's an innocent instrument, but it's quite a bear to write for.
Awesome. Thanks, Chris. It looks like people have more questions about hard things. Bradley, what was the hardest day on set for you?
Hardest day on set. Physically hardest or technically hardest? Well, okay, so I guess the best part would just be the very first scene that we filmed, which was actually the bus scene. That was when we were just ironing out all the kinks of our production process, and it just so happened that we made the most complex scene the very first one that we did. So we were literally in a moving vehicle, walking around carrying a camera with musicians and actors, changing costume, and we had a lot of technical difficulties with equipment malfunctions. So that was the hardest day on set. From a technical perspective. And then we already had this conversation just a few minutes ago. I guess physically the hardest day was when we were up on filming at the top of the mountain, because I was sick that day, like really, really sick. And we had to hike, like, how far was that? 2 miles?
A decent distance with a bunch of heavy instruments.
It was pretty far, carrying instruments and camera equipment. That was a hard day because I was not up to it.
Nonetheless, you got some beautiful shots there, though, man. Well done.
Oh yeah. It worked out beautifully. But I had to thank you for being there for me to hand off the camera after every single take. Like, just take this.
It's awesome. All right. So, Dustin, this question is probably for you. Obviously, this has been a short film that everybody just saw premiered, but it is partnered and is accompanied by an app, right? Kind of a creative way of looking at music. Can you show us or tell us a little bit about what the app does?
Yeah. Working on the app's been pretty fun for me. I've had a lot of creative freedom in how I've gone about this. Evan, when you and I talked in the beginning, and you asked me if I wanted to help out, I think I don't think we knew really what that would look like. We were just kind of like trying to figure out how we can get all these technical skills involved. I think at first we thought maybe it was just going to be a website with the video. But at that time I had been working on a lot of music type game prototypes. And so that had a huge influence on what we came up with. And actually right now, I don't know if anybody who just watched the premiere has seen the main website, imaginesymphony.live, but I've just put the main app live today there.
Woohoo!
Oh, wow.
I might be able to do a screen share and you want to be patient and see if I can get
Yeah,
this?
do you want to go ahead and set that up, and I'll move on to the next question and then come back to you?
Yeah, sounds good.
Cool. This one's fun. This is from Yostein555. How did you make the bus scene look like one take? Bradley, I think this is a you question.
Yeah, interestingly, so we actually shared recently a little behind the scenes clip where you could see the actual film playing next to the behind the scenes footage of that scene. So the way we accomplished it was using a camera technique called a whip pan. So when he came in and sat down in the bus and then the camera whips around, we use that camera motion to hide a cut. So when you see him sit and then the camera turns around it and then you see the musicians playing, that's actually two separate shots. And then as the camera is moving and it comes back to the kid again, there's another really fast pan, and we use that blurred motion to hide that cut so that when the scene ends and the camera is pulling away from the kid in the seat, and then we see that the musicians have changed outfits again, and now they're just regular people. So that's how we were able to accomplish that in a moving bus.
Yeah, that scene I remember being kind of a tricky one too to get with timing of with how many times can you drive around downtown without having to get
Right.
the same background, all these different problems.
And
Chris,
people waiting on the sidewalk for the bus to stop so they could get on.
that's awesome. Chris, this one is for you. Maybe it's a two-parter. It says, how many musicians were involved with this project? The short answer for me is to say that we had over 50 in the Central Oregon Symphony. But Chris, maybe a better question for you is, how do you go about, how many musicians were involved playing and recording in this?
Right. Yeah. So there was the Central Oregon Symphony that we filmed with here in Central Oregon, but the recording itself, because COVID hit at a very untimely moment, it ended up with me playing a lot, programming out some synth mock-ups and things like that to sweeten up the live recordings. But because everyone in the world got really good at remote recording very fast, I was able to send a little click track out to all my musician friends out there, just all over the country. And there's it's like a little metro, and as long as they can record into their own software, if they play with that little click, they'll line up with the rest of the music. So I had something like 25 people sending me little bits and pieces of solos just over the course of a few months, and then we just mixed it all together into one cohesive sounding piece of music.
Awesome. Yeah, sounds like a magical tool to any of us who don't really know the full production process of music making.
Yeah, normally we would just have record it down at once, but because of the pandemic, we had to just do something different.
Awesome. Well, it sounds great, honestly. I'm so glad that you were in charge of that process, Chris. You've made something truly beautiful. I'm going to allow Dustin to share his screen so you can go ahead and show something with the app. I don't know if you're ready yet, Dustin. Let me know.
Yeah, I was getting a pop-up saying, oh, here we go. Thank you. Looks like you enabled it. Go ahead and confirm if you see that.
Yeah,
cool.
I'm seeing it. Yeah.
All right, so I've kind of skipped the intro on this interaction, and I'm just going to kind of explain what this is, since I think there's a lot of fresh eyes on this. So the film is playing in the back here, and what the user gets to do is interact with the music and visuals from the composition. So what I've done as the user is I've just queued up the first violin and the second violin here, and you can see the film's playing behind us, right? So this is the same film, same music and everything. But the notes that you see, this is all pulled directly from Chris's composition. And what we did was we selectively chose different parts from the composition that we wanted the user to visually experience and feel maybe what it's like to be a conductor and to move a symphony. So I'm really excited for everybody to check this out on their own. It's supposed to feel very playful. There's a lot of game concepts that are incorporated in this, and I think I think it's a lot of fun. There's going to be some more stuff rolling out in the next couple of weeks just to add to this experience. But there you go. There's kind of a rundown.
That's so cool, Dustin. Only you could come up with a creative way to,
Yeah.
I don't know how to describe what you've made, but make something new. Is that a good way of putting it?
Yeah, I think so.
Never seen anything else like it before, so it's really cool for sure.
Yeah,
Wow.
it was fun getting the opportunity to have so much freedom here to do this.
So, hey, Dustin, would you mind when you have a chance ending the screen share so I can get the face back for
Oh
the
yeah.
next question? This one is for Chris. So, from Jacob, did you approach this more as a film scoring project, or did you compose the music independent of the film?
Oh, Jacob, thank you for asking. Oh, interesting. I guess a little bit of both because this is one of those rare cases because most of the time in film music you need a finished piece of picture to write the music against so you can lock musical moments against frames of film. In this case, we needed to shoot against music, but Bradley and Evan were designing the story. So how do we do this? Well, they basically framed out every scene, created a mock-up for me to visually understand what they were going to do, created timing notes, and then I just kind of composed music ahead of time based on what the story was going to do and approximately how much time I was going to have for each of those moments. So they structured it for me. I wrote the music and then they shot to the music. So it was a bit of a hybrid of the two processes.
Thanks, Chris. Yeah, it was a little tricky getting everything lined up together, and I think it kind of created this
Yeah.
unique experience where the music was literally part of the writing process, almost the scripting, right? So it was fun to do it that way. I felt a little bit different than you just following the scene.
Well, that's rare for me to just compose music freely and not have to change the tempo and hit little things. I just got to be a composer for once. Yeah.
This one is less of a question, but I'll bring it up nonetheless. I was in the symphony audience during some of your filming, and the music score and outdoor scenes actually made me tear up. So wonderful. Can't wait to see the app. Thank you, Becky. We really appreciate that. That makes us feel very good inside to hear people were happy with what we've been producing. This question is from Elaine Sigvaltsen, familiar. What was the inspiration and how did you get started with it? So, honestly, I'll kind of, this is an interesting question for everybody. For me, I think, if we're talking about the first genesis of the thought, I think it's like, why do we do anything? Sometimes we just need to create something because it's fun, right? But as the project grew, honestly, growing up, I went to a symphony, and it was the Central Oregon Symphony, actually. And that set me on a path of, being able to play the cello, which had a teacher who ran the program in our elementary middle school. But she also went to the symphony, something that like wouldn't have been in our town unless, of course, that symphony was here. And so I realized that it's such an enriching part of life to have music, to have it be available in a community sense. So I really appreciate what that is, and I wanted to after this project developed, kind of tell that story as its core identity, right? That music is awesome, and as a community, as an orchestra, I really appreciate it. Chris, I think for you, what do you get out of a community symphony, being a player and a composer?
Gosh, my story is pretty similar to yours. I started playing, like you, playing cello in a community orchestra. It was like the first real support I had in this world. And for me, getting to sit inside an orchestra and is a big part of what taught me to be a composer. And I always figured, going to college and studying composition was what would really teach you to be a composer. But the truth is, when you're in rehearsal playing Prokofiev and Beethoven, like when the conductor stops and says, "Hey, I'd like to hear just the clarinets, violas, bassoons, and the double bass," and they solo out little groups, and then you hear that within the chaos of a big symphony, there's these inside ensembles doing this other thing, and it taught me, oh, you can voice a chord in that exact instrument formation. So it was a lesson in composition and how to orchestrate properly from the masters, and I didn't realize that that's what it was teaching me growing up. And it's just such a part, and it's just amazing the different ways regular people are part of something like this. That's what I love about your vision on this. At one moment they're players in a symphony, flash, whip pan. Suddenly, they're just people that would be on the street anyway. They're just regular humans, and they're part of our community.
That's so awesome, Chris. Thanks for sharing. This one's kind of an interesting question from Stop the Violins DD. Tongue in cheek already included. Was it difficult to work with Michael Gesme? I don't want to answer this question. Whoa, look at that message. Anybody have anything to say before I give my answer?
I don't know. Does the word harsh, tyrant, difficult, demanding, critical? Oh, I mean, except the opposite of all those things. He's like the sweetest. He's just so cool with all of them. In fact, we're the ones who put him through an incredible amount of nonsense. And he was so cool. And like, we hijacked his audience during live concerts. And I mean, which is really nice of somebody to do.
Right. We blinded his audience during live concerts.
For those of you who may not be aware, Michael Gesme is the conductor of the Central Oregon Symphony. He's the conductor you see in the movie. There was definitely some pressure, but no, he's an absolute blast to work with. Honestly, for him to work around us and contribute basically the symphony, get everybody bored and help organize everything. Man, I can only have the best praises for him.
Yeah, and to play for him too. Like, goodness, can he rehearse an orchestra? And it's like his rehearsals. Like, you discover a bunch of problems. He helps us work through it, and you come away feeling stronger about what you're doing than anything. Like, he criticizes you, but you feel like great when he does it. It's a special talent.
Yeah, and a mark of a
I
great
definitely
team.
appreciated the amount of very vocal support that he gave to the whole project. It was just from the beginning he just believed in it and made us feel that. And it was very empowering. I loved it.
Here's a question from Laura Layton. Tell the story about how you held your equipment at the bookstore while you filmed. Bradley, this sounds like it's for you.
I'm not sure I understand that, how we held the equipment.
Like how you used the camera or something?
Well, okay, so in the bookstore, it was all shot handheld. There's not much more technical to it than that. I'm wondering.
There was smoke.
So we did use an interesting, a little bit unique camera setup in the sense that we had a specialized type of lens on the camera called a tilt shift, which most camera lenses, when you are focusing, it's adjusting the plane of focus forwards and backwards. But this particular type of lens allows you to either swivel it or tilt the plane of focus this way. And so we used that optical ability to complement the story, where we were having certain elements in the foreground, for example, our child talent, and a musician in the background, both in focus while everything around them is out of focus. And it's a very surreal visual effect. So that was something that we wanted to do to kind of put the viewer in a sense that it's hard to tell if he's imagining this or if it's actually something that's happening. And that it's kind of open to the viewer's interpretation of what that scene is supposed to be.
So I think Laura Layton, she's expanded her question to say about how Michael Gesme was acting as a grip, his longtime dream in the bookstore. Yes, we were able to use the conductor as a light holder while he was not actually on the camera. So
we forgot to name him in the grip section of the credits. We should have done that.
You're right. We
The most noble of all film professions.
Does it all. Oh, no. Yet another thing, he pitches in at all levels. And I think you can have a grip position anytime you want, Michael. It's all yours. From maestro to grip. Timothy Thomas says, does everyone on the panel have an Oregon connection? Well, an Oregon
Apparently.
connection?
Yeah.
Are you connected to Oregon, Northwest? Yeah. What do you think?
Yeah, I can speak for Timothy Thomas too. He and I grew up in the same house in Eastern Oregon. And yeah, I was born and raised in the Northwest. This has always been home to me. Yeah.
And Bradley?
So we all live here in the same town, but I'm not from this town. I'm from the East Coast. I'm from Scranton, Pennsylvania, home of The Office. Best boss ever.
Right.
But yeah, we've lived here for the last 4 years.
That's awesome. Dustin, you?
Yep.
Well, yeah.
Evan and I actually both grew up in Sun River. So yeah, been like 20 years in Central Oregon or so.
We love the Northwest. We love being out here, getting out in the woods. So yeah, great question, Timothy. And I think a lot of the inspiration visually and even musically is inspired by the fact that, you know, we love the area we live in, and it's easy to celebrate, right? Easy to film. This question, and we're getting close to the end of our session here. What is your ultimate goal after people watch this film and experience the app? So, you know, I guess this might be geared. I'll take this question. Honestly, you know, I hope they enjoy it, right? Music at its core, you know, if anybody's going to watch an orchestra or any sort of performance, really, you want them to walk away, you know, hopefully saying, "Boy, that was something that moved me. I felt something, or I was entertained." So I hope that at the very least. At a deeper level, though, you know, specifically, I'm hoping that the next generation. So we're talking like elementary school, middle school, high school, people who are, you know, for the first time maybe being introduced to a symphony and orchestra. Educators can help use this to maybe inspire a few people to pick up an instrument and get involved with their local music scene. You know, and that might be lessons, or it might be the local symphony, or it might be a youth symphony. Either way, there's a lot of ways to get involved in music, and I just hope this is one way to represent how fun it can be to be involved.
Absolutely.
So I don't have any other questions. If anybody else has questions, we'd be happy to answer them, you know, either with emails or social media. But thank you so much for joining us this evening. We really appreciate everything that you guys have done as the supporters. You know, as a Kickstarter project, we've had many supporters help us to the end. So thank you so much. For everyone else who's seen this for the first time, we hope that you can share this with your friends and let everybody know how what you thought about the video. Okay, everybody, I'm going to pop you on the screen and we'll say goodbye. Otherwise, thank you so much. All right,
Thanks,
bye.
everyone.
Thank you. Good to
Yeah.
see you.
Thank you for watching.
Okay.